The first time Barry saw her, London was shivering under a curtain of soft, persistent rain. He had wandered out of his small rented flat near Primrose Hill to clear his mind, carrying a coffee he'd forgotten had long gone cold. His coat was too thin, his thoughts too heavy. The kind of evening when the city looked like a film set, gray skies, wet cobblestones, and people wrapped in their own invisible stories. He wasn't supposed to be here. The trip to London had been spontaneous, an escape from the quiet ache of his marriage back home. His wife had stopped looking at him the way she used to. Conversations had become duty. Dinners, formalities. He hadn't admitted to anyone, not even to himself, that he was running away. Barry's paused beneath the awning of a small bookstore near Camden Town. The shop smelled of rain, paper, and faint jazz. Inside, a woman was flipping through a book, her auburn hair catching the light like embers. He didn't know her name then. Only that something about her calm absorbed the noise around her. When their eyes met through the glass, it lasted less than a second, but it was enough. A small moment, ordinary and quiet, yet it left a mark deeper than reason could explain. He hesitated before entering. The bell above the door gave a gentle chime. "Sorry," he said, shaking the water from his sleeves. "I think London's trying to drown us today." She looked up from the pages, smiling with a trace of amusement. "Then we'll have to learn to swim, won't we?" Her voice was soft, playful. The accent, Turkish, like his own, startled him. "You're from Istanbul?" he asked. She nodded. "Elçin." He introduced himself, and suddenly the rain outside seemed to hush. The world had shrunk to the space between the shelves, to the scent of damp books and the soft jazz humming through the radio. They talked. At first, only small things: the city, Turkish coffee, the way Londoners pretended not to mind the rain. But as minutes passed, something began to bloom between them: easy laughter, gentle teasing, an unspoken understanding that both of them were somehow far from home in more ways than one. When the shopkeeper announced closing time, neither wanted to leave. "Would you," Barry started, hesitating, "like to get coffee tomorrow? Maybe something stronger than the English kind?" Elçin tilted her head, considering. "There's a cafe near Notting Hill with decent espresso." 11 a.m.? 11 a.m., he repeated, committing it to memory as if it were sacred. That night, Barry's walked back through the rain with a strange warmth in his chest. His reflection followed him through the puddles, half guilty, half hopeful. He thought of his wife for the first time in days. She had texted earlier, "Hope the meetings are going well." He hadn't answered. He told himself there was no harm in meeting someone for coffee. He told himself a lie. The next morning, London woke under pale sunlight. Barry's arrived early at the cafe, sitting near the window where he could watch the street. He rehearsed casual greetings in his head and failed at all of them. Elçin arrived wrapped in a beige coat, her hair loose, her eyes bright. She ordered black coffee, no sugar. They talked for hours, about acting, travel, loneliness, and the strange way people in big cities always look like they're searching for something. When she laughed, he forgot the heaviness that had followed him from home. When she listened, it felt as if his words mattered again. At one point, she asked quietly, "Are you here alone?" The question hung between them. He hesitated. "Mostly." Something in her eyes softened, an understanding without judgment. She didn't ask more. When they parted, it wasn't with a goodbye. It was with a promise hidden inside a smile. That night, he wrote in his journal for the first time in months. "Met someone today. Her name is Elçin. I don't know what this is, but I feel like I can breathe again." He didn't realize then how deeply that feeling would pull him in, how far it would take him from everything he thought he knew about loyalty, love, and the fragile line between right and wrong outside. The rain began again, soft, endless, familiar, inside. A heart began to wake, fictional work inspired by on-screen chemistry. All characters and events are imagined mornings in Notting Hill have a way of pretending the world is gentler than it is. The painted terraces along Portobello Road looked fresh as pastry icing. Stalls were just waking, tarps shrugging off dew. The cafe that Elson had mentioned was tucked between an antiques shop and a florist that spelled its chalkboard specials with too many flourishes. Inside, the air was warm with the scent of espresso and orange zest. Barry's arrived early again and pretended he hadn't. He opened and closed a book he wasn't reading, checked his phone for messages he didn't want, and stared at the street like it might answer something for him. When he saw her cross toward the cafe, hair pinned loosely, scarf trailing like a brushstroke, he felt a private thud of gratitude. As if he'd been afraid she wouldn't come and had only now realized it. "Good morning," she said, breath misting as she stepped in. "You beat me." "I'm still learning London time," he replied. "It's different from Istanbul time." "How so?" "In Istanbul, we're late with pride. Here, we're early with apologies." She laughed, and he watched the barista glance over, already charmed by the sound. They ordered 2 espressos, a shared plate of almond croissants. When the cups came, tiny and dark, he lifted his and found her already watching him over the rim, eyes lit with something between curiosity and kindness. "So," she said, "what does your notebook say today?" "You can tell I write?" "The way you looked at the chalkboard outside," she said, leaning back, like it had already told you a story. He shrugged, embarrassed. "I write when I'm trying not to think." "Dangerous," she said. "That's when the truest sentences slip out." He wanted to tell her about the truest sentence he'd written last night, "I can breathe again," but he didn't. Instead he asked about her work. And she spoke of roles like they were borrowed lives, a woman with a secret she could not confess. A sister who forgave out of habit, a wanderer who mistook longing for a destination. She had a way of describing people that made them present at the table, third and fourth companions to their coffee. "And you?" she asked. "What do you do when you're not avoiding your thoughts?" "I act a little. In my own way. And I try to take pictures that tell the truth even when the truth isn't very flattering." "Street photography?" "People and windows, reflections, hands that look like they've held things too tightly for too long. That's a lot to find in one city." "London has 1,000 hands," he said. "And most of them are tired." She smiled. "Maybe that's why I like it. Tired hands don't pretend." They ate, slowly, as if the morning were a lake they were wading into. Outside, the market grew louder in a pleasant, weatherproof way. A busker began tuning a guitar with patient plucks. At a neighboring table, 2 elderly women argued lovingly about whether marmalade should be bitter. A child pressed his face to the window, fogging the glass and drawing a crooked sun with his finger. "Tell me something true," Elson said, quiet enough that only the napkins could overhear. "About why you came." He considered the safe answers: a break, a project, a whim. The lies would be gentle. They would even be partly true. But the morning had not been made for gentle lies. "I came because my marriage is quiet," he said. "Too quiet. We stopped finding each other. We drift in the same room." He took a breath. "I thought distance would make me want to hurry back. I thought missing home might remind me what home is." And Her voice had the deep steadiness of someone who had carried other people's confessions before. He met her eyes. I don't know yet. She didn't recoil or moralize, didn't offer absolutions she had no right to give. She let the truth sit between them, neither caged nor coddled. Silence is loud, isn't it? She said after a moment. It's louder than anger. Yes. He felt a quiet relief, the kind that makes you dizzy because it arrives without warning. I keep thinking if I say the wrong thing to my wife, the last fragile piece of us will break. So I say nothing. And the nothing keeps breaking us anyway. Elson's gaze slipped to the window, where rain threatened the edge of the sky but hadn't yet committed. Sometimes the bridge burns whether you cross it or not, she murmured. The trick is admitting which side you're already on. He sat with that for a long breath. He wanted to ask which side she was on, the one who waited or the one who wandered, but didn't. Some questions take more than a morning to ask. Tell me something true, he said. Wanting the scales balanced, she traced a ring of condensation her cup had left on the saucer. I tell stories for a living, she said. I am good at pretending to be the person people need. Sometimes I forget who I am when no one is watching. He thought of last night's sentence in his notebook and wondered what hers would be. I am a room with many mirrors. Or perhaps, I am more honest in the spaces between roles than anywhere else. Who are you right now? He asked. She considered and surprised him with a small, sincere answer. Hungry. And glad you're here. They ordered another round. The busker outside began to play something tender and unpretentious. A man wheeled in crates of oranges, and their scent cut through the coffee like sunlight. The morning shifted, warmer, as if time had loosened its collar. Walk with me? She asked when the conversation paused of its own accord. Thank you guys.